Listen to the Matt Brown Show. This is the Matt Brown Show. Matt Brown Show.
Joey, welcome to the Matt Brown Show.
Hi, cheers. Good to be here.
Dude, so I've heard so many things about you, the least of which is from numerous media sources. Let's start with Carte Blanche. You were on there not so long ago. And then more recently, Entrepreneur Mag.
Yes, yeah.
So, like, for those of our listeners who haven't heard of Joey before, like, what's your deal? Like, what are the headlines?
Well, in a nutshell, it was, I'm a passionate dirt bike racer, and I had a dream to race the Dakar Rally. And it's a dream that's kind of just driven me for years and years. But the dream was shattered in 2007 when I had a massive off-road crash at a local race. And it just completely shattered not only that Dakar dream, but my life as well. And what happened was I broke my back at T8, T9, and I'd crushed my spinal cord, so I was paralyzed from the chest down. And then, over the years, you work at this goal and you work at things changing, and in a very, very short version, I managed to race the Dakar Rally last year in 2017. So
that can't feel good. When you can't move. So you're literally from the neck down?
From just below my chest. So my arms are good and stuff, but, from just below my chest down, lost everything.
Okay. And so how did that impact you personally? I mean, I can just imagine how devastating that must have been for you. And more importantly, I mean, you have a wife, you have kids.
Yeah. No, that is the biggest challenge, the whole, obviously the family side of it and all of that, those sort of things. But it's completely devastating. From a point of view that, if you think of yourself, you've got goals, you've got dreams, you think about your business, you think about your family, you think about what you want to do one day, and you've got all these kind of things. And in an instant, all of that just evaporates. The future is gone. Everything's gone. When you can't use your legs and you, along with a spinal cord injury, you lose all bowel control, you lose bladder control, you lose all this sort of stuff. And it all just goes. It's gone. And so all these dreams and hopes and stuff, they just go, and it's incredibly difficult. I have 4 young daughters, and at the time they were, the day of the accident was the day before my oldest daughter turned 8, and so I've got these 4 girls all under the age of 8. And you want to teach those kids to ride bicycles, you want to play with them on the beach, you want to walk them down the aisle one day, and all of that is just boom, just gone.
Yeah. So, I mean, I can only imagine what that must feel like. And so I guess there's 2 things I think are worth exploring here. One is you clearly had a dream, right? Like a vision. And I think a lot of my listeners are working towards something. I mean, often people when I have interviews with the media, they'll say, like, what are you working towards or whatever? And I can actually see my goal with my eyes open. Do you know what I mean? It's like I don't need to meditate about it to get clear around it. It's that fucking clear, right?
Yeah, it's there, yeah.
Yeah, and I imagine you were the same thing. Like, I mean, let's talk about your dream. I mean, what did you see in your head? Like, what were you working towards? Like, what was driving you towards that?
Yeah, obviously there's a lot of drive to get better from a dad and a husband point of view, make no mistake. But I decided to use my Dakar goal as the thing that would motivate me to recover physically. When do you consider it a good recovery? I mean, still now here I am 11 years later after breaking my back, and I'm still not fully recovered. I got a lot of challenges and stuff, but the goal was to race the Dakar Rally. That was the goal. And so each physio session when it's getting tough, and each day where it's embarrassing with bowel or bladder problems, or it's you're going through the mall in a wheelchair and people are looking at you and staring, and it's hard, all that sort of stuff's difficult. I just think about that goal, and that was the thing that drove me to continue to improve, continue to get better, continue to put in the hard work, and just really work towards it. That was my thing.
So how did the accident actually happen? I mean, what year was it? And Can you walk us through the events that actually went down?
I lined up on the start line with about 20 other riders. It was 13th of October, 2007. And I was lying second in the regional championship. And it's an off-road, dirt bike race. And they drop a flag and all the riders go for it. And as all the riders come together and they narrow into that first corner, I was determined to be the first guy in that corner. We call it the whole shot, I was determined to do that because I wanted to win this championship. At the time, it was really important to me. And the flag dropped, but that was the last thing I remembered. And the next thing I woke up and I'm facing the sky and there's, paramedics and people all peering down at me. My helmet's off. It's quiet. All the bikes are gone. And what had happened was going into that first corner, there was a big crash and had a rider right into the back of me and it high-sided me. And then I had, in the dust and the mayhem, other riders rode over me as well. And I was obviously unconscious and I'd shattered 12 of my teeth. I thought at first I had dirt in my mouth. I started spitting out this dirt and it was my teeth. And then the next thing we realized is I just said, hey, I can't feel my legs. There's just nothing there. And there was a lot of complications because obviously you're in the middle of the veldt, and so I ended up lying there for nearly 3 hours before I was evacuated out by ambulance, 3 different hospitals, and ended up in Pretoria, where at a hospital there, the Milmed unit. And that's when we discovered the extent of my injuries, that I'd broken my back and crushed my spinal cord. And the outlook was that you're not going to walk again.
So when someone says that to you, what goes through your mind?
For me, I'm a pretty determined guy, and when they say you're not going to walk again, I'm like, yeah, you don't know me,
Amen.
But which is what a lot of guys would do, and a lot of your listeners are those kind of guys, where you're like, bring it, But can I tell you, when there's nothing there, and the next day there's nothing there, and the next day there's nothing there, there's nothing for you to work on. There's just nothing there. You can't do exercises. You can't do. There's just no movement, no feeling, no nothing. And your legs start just wasting away. And so you got these legs. They were my legs. They were powerful. It's your quads. And they just waste away. And your legs start just going skinnier and skinnier, and your whole butt kind of disappears, and everything just goes, all your core muscles, all that sort of stuff.
Jerry's phone's going off.
Sorry, mate.
So you're saying your legs waste away?
It all wastes away, and as it all wastes away, the reality sets in, that you suddenly realize that this is how it is. This is real. This isn't some kind of something that you can just beat with your mind type of thing. You know what I mean? This is proper, and it's a physical thing that you can't overcome. And that was really tough. And the doctor fused my back, which was one of the things that he wanted to do to create some stability there. And then slowly but surely, you're obviously just praying for miracles. You're hoping for the best. You're hoping something can change. But as each day and each week goes away, it just slips further and further, and you get to this point of almost hopelessness. And then I had a little twitch in my right big toe. If I really focused, I could make my right big toe just flicker a little bit. And then I used to just flicker that toe as much as I could. And then I started to get just a little bit in my left ankle. And then as the days and weeks went on, a little bit in my right quad and a little bit in my left. And slowly but surely, I started to get some of the stuff back. And so when I had a little bit in my right quad, I could make my right quad like flex a little. Not enough to have any movement. I couldn't move my leg, but I could feel there's something there. And I would just lie there in the bed and just count out reps of just flexing until it would fatigue, and then there's nothing. And then you'd wait for a bit of recovery and you just lie there and just flex again. And slowly but surely started to be able to stand with calipers on my legs, type these caliper kind of things. And then obviously going on to walking again.
I want to come back to how this kind of rebirth actually, I'm using rebirth as a term to describe, because it is kind of like you finding your like core again, you know what I mean? But I want to talk about reality, because I think it was actually something I was journaling about this morning. So I journal. I highly recommend anyone listening and watching to us right now to journal, because it helps you to actually process things and to get the perspective that you need to push through certain challenges or barriers that you're facing.
Yeah.
But what I was writing was that the precursor to making better decisions, to pushing through that barrier, is to actually accept reality. And I think there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there right now who just don't do that very well.
Yeah.
Like, you meet people who they'll come to me and go, Matt, can you help me solve, like, I don't know how, I got a problem with my business or whatever the case is. And basically there's not product market fit. There's a business problem on the table and they don't see it. They're not prepared to accept reality. Do you know what I mean? That your business isn't going to work. You need to shift to a new strategy or whatever. I mean, what did you learn when you were lying in the bed there? Like, what did you learn about accepting reality?
Yeah, big one that, big one. You know, when you lie there, you obviously, your first thing, and it'll be for everyone who has any kind of major injury like this or cancer or whatever it is, you kind of like, I'm going to beat this. I'm going to, no, this ain't going to change me. You're going to see. But there's some stuff you can't change. There's some stuff that's there and it is what it is. So perhaps to give you some perspective, I'm here 11 years later now. Now, I still can't feel hot or cold or pain sensation below my chest. I can't run. I can't jump. My legs don't work properly, so I can walk pretty good. Most people won't notice I got a problem when I'm walking, but my feet are permanently pins and needles. I have to take medication daily to help me to digest food. My legs spasm when there's no when my adrenaline goes or when I'm fatigued. And to be perfectly frank, I still have to use catheters. And so that's 11 years in. Now, if you look at all of those problems, that's reality. That's what I'm going to deal with the rest of my life. And a lot of those things can affect how long I'll live as well. So you're faced with this pretty grim reality with stuff. Now, I have every right to be freaking miserable about it and to be like, man, you don't understand. I was a freaking good bike racer, and now, I got all these issues and it sucks. But it's not about that. It's about the fact if you focus on and you say, cool, that's the reality, those kind of challenges. But it's also a reality is that I can walk. I can ride a bike. I can go watch my kids play hockey and swim, and I can walk them down the aisle one day, and I can travel with my wife, and I can do all this cool stuff. And so you focus on that. You focus on the change you can make, not on the crap, And because of that, it's helped to drive me to do the goals and to achieve the things that I've wanted to achieve.
So I suppose the next obvious thing is positive thinking.
Yeah.
And I think positivity is a very, very important thing, especially for business owners.
Yeah.
Because, and I can tell you firsthand, and anyone that knows my story will know it takes a lot of self-awareness and self-motivation to really take your business forward. And positive thinking really does get you through those times where you are just crippled by doubt, you're crippled by fear, you're crippled by self-fatuation in many cases. Like you beat yourself up about the fact that you are in this situation.
Yeah.
And whether you choose to accept that or not is ultimately your choice. But once you decide, which is your ultimate power, but once you decide that, this is the reality that I'm in, and you're now going to move forward, like you're now getting this tingling in your toe, right? I mean, how important was thinking positively? Because for me, I would still be a pessimist to some degree, right? Because even though you've got some feeling, I know it's a long shot.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, completely. No, it's a huge long shot. Something that I've learned to know, I guess it's a little easier for me to say because I'm walking, but I can tell you now that people who have an injury like mine, where they end up in a wheelchair, where they have a spinal cord injury, whether it's a quadriplegic, paraplegic, these kind of things. I can tell you now that I've seen people who have lived full, awesome lives after an injury like this, and I've seen people that have lived miserable, horrible lives after an injury like this. And in both categories, there's people that walk again, and there's people that don't walk again.
So it's actually a thing where they're told, dude, you're fucked, you're never going to walk again.
Yeah, it's called a complete spinal cord injury. If you have a complete spinal cord injury, with the way medication, our medical advancements, whatever you want to call it as you are today, you're not going to walk again. It's a reality, where we are now. Now, you never know what can change in the future. I'm one of these guys that believe, hey, the future's not written, man. You don't know, so give yourself the best sporting chance. But the current reality is you're not going to walk again. So now you got a choice. You're going to be in the wheelchair. You don't get to choose if you're in the wheelchair or not. But you get to choose if you're going to live a freaking awesome life or if you're going to focus on what you don't have, And so you'll get guys that are, and they have every right to be miserable. Don't get me wrong. You know what I mean? They have every right. I mean, it's rough, it's proper, but you can choose to live an awesome life and have this fantastic life ahead of you in a wheelchair, but still be a positive person, get a lot of value out of your life. Or you get guys that'll walk again, but they'll have challenges perhaps like I do with catheters and, this sort of stuff. And they'll be miserable about that their whole lives. And they'll be like, man, you don't know how hard it is dealing with catheters and dealing with not being able to run and play the sports I used to and, all this sort of stuff. And they're miserable. But that guy in the wheelchair would get anything to be in his position. And it's like that throughout all people, whether you're, experience physical challenges or not. We often think like, but I don't have this, but I'm not that oak. I don't have that much money. I don't have, look at what you got. You can be sure that there's guys out there that would look at you and go, man, I'd give anything to be that oak. And you've just got to, if you change your mind, you change your mindset about it, to just figure it out upstairs, you have a freaking awesome life.
Tell me something, how important is, or was being grateful for what you had and appreciating, I suppose it's probably exponentially become more self-evident for you now looking back.
Yeah.
But at the time when you were in the trenches taking grenades, a metaphor for the situation that you were in. I mean, how did you find the space to be appreciative for what you had, despite at the time what felt like so much being taken away from you?
When you're in that hospital and you look around at all the injuries, the one side of it was I was injured racing dirt bikes. Guys get injured racing dirt bikes. I kind of brought this a bit on myself. Let's be frank. It's one of those like accept responsibility type things. You're racing dirt bikes. You take risks. I rolled the dice, the 6 came up and I got nailed, and it is what it is. You got to kind of accept that. So yes, it was, but you look around that hospital and you see guys that are injured at work. Something fell on their head. You see a lady who slipped in the shower, broke her back, and she's paralyzed. You see people who are involved in car accidents where they're hit by drunk drivers, where someone who was texting hit them, these kind of things. So that's the one side of it. You kind of look at it and you go like, hey, this is what it is. We took the risks and we got bitten, and here we are. So that's the first side. The second side is when you look around at these guys, you look at guys with head injuries. So you're in this hospital, you can't use your legs. The guy next to you can't recognize his wife. He can't read and write.
Why is that? Is that because of
a head injury?
A head injury.
So he's got a head injury. So the guy's now he's got brain damage. You look at another guy down there in the physiotherapy. He's a quadriplegic. So I've got everything above my chest. So my fingers work perfectly. My hands work perfectly. I've got good strong arms and shoulders and stuff. I can lift myself in and out of a wheelchair. Even if I stay in the wheelchair, I'll be able to drive one day. I'll be able to pretty much live a pretty functional life. That guy's got a neck injury, so he's lost everything below his neck. He's quadriplegic, so he cannot use his hands. He can't type on a computer. He can't pick up a phone. He can't hold his wife's hand or touch his child's face. He's lost everything. You look at that guy, and you look at where you are, and you realize the fact that I'm a paraplegic as opposed to a quadriplegic, which is the neck, that. Man, I have so much to be grateful for because I got arms. I mean, to have arms at work it's incredible, but you only realize that when you see these other guys. So you see all these other guys, a lot of the injuries not brought on themselves and a lot worse than you. And you better find that place to be grateful for what you got, because you have a lot to be grateful for.
I suppose I just have to ask you though, are you more grateful now than, if you're thinking about the guy that you are now versus the guy that you were 10 years ago when all this happened?
Yeah.
Are you more grateful now for the things that you have? Because it's still your wife and the kids or whatever,
Yeah.
Are you more grateful now?
Massively so. Massively so. It's because you nearly lose it. You know what I mean?
But that's my point.
Yeah.
Why do you need to lose it?
I know. That's what's ridiculous. And it's one of those things with everything in life. Learn the lessons from someone else. Don't let it happen to you before you learn those lessons. And so the lessons guys need to learn now, if they have families and if they have these kind of things, be grateful. Today's Valentine's Day. If you've got someone in your life that you kind of haven't done anything for, but you need to sort out your stuff, man, because you got lots to be grateful for. Make the effort, because they're not always going to be there, or you're not always going to be there. And so you got to do those things.
So, and I want to talk about this point because many people know my story for my 100th show, Entrepreneur Mag doing a whole piece or whatever.
Cool.
And I actually spoke about, and this is in the public domain, but basically I've started 8 businesses, 6 of which failed, 2 I've built and sold. But and I know what it feels like to really lose the shirt off your back.
Yeah.
You know, when you feel like your dream's been snatched away from you, despite what the truth is. And I think this, you bullshit yourself about why your business isn't crap.
Yeah.
Right. But actually, you need to seek out the truth in order to understand actually where is the problem. And until you know the truth, you can't fix the problem. You almost delay the inevitable, right? And so for all the guys out there now who are running startups, we know that they're cash-strapped businesses, even the big guys. I mean, no business is immune now, you know.
Yeah.
But for the entrepreneurs out there that are basically broke,
taking heat in
the trenches, taking grenades every day, stuck inside the bottle, can't read the label, pretty pessimistic about their future. What would you say to them?
I've got to tell you a bit about my story. Okay, so paralyzed 2007. 2008, darkest year of my life, you know, dealing with all this sort of stuff, trying to learn to walk again, trying to, you know, have ramps put in your house where you're in a wheelchair. It's miserable, man. You know, it's hard stuff. Ticking away. Think about my Dakar goal. Start to learn to walk again, move on. About 2.5 years later, I start to ride a motorbike again because I want to qualify to race the Dakar. So I've got to learn to ride again. So I'm teaching myself to ride a motorbike again, which is really crap since I'm a good rider, but I can't ride, you know. And so in my mind, I can do all this stuff, but I can't do it physically. I work at it. 4 years after the accident, I start racing. I line up at the start of a race. We go into the race. I'm stone lost. I'm getting lapped by guys that I used to beat. It's humbling, and they lap me again and again and again. And you're that hacker at the back instead of being the oak styling at the front like you're used to. And so you now deal with this, and it's hard. And then I hit year 5, and I'm now starting to learn to finish races, and I'm getting better. Then I hit year 6, and now I'm like on my way, and I'm working on this goal, and I'm finishing races, and I'm finishing multiple day races, and things are going well. And then I'm racing along the Mozambican border with South Africa and Swaziland, doing the Pongola 500. And in a split second, a cow runs out, and I T-bone this cow. And like that, you saw what I did there, and I'm a mess, and I end up lying in the veld for another 3 hours. I get medevaced out to Richards Bay. I've separated my collarbone from my shoulder. I've broken my elbow. I've torn my triceps right off my elbow. I've broken 2 ribs. I've ripped open my forearm to expose the bones. I'm a mess. I'm a complete mess now. I've learned to walk again. I've done all this sort of stuff. I've worked at this for 6 friggin' years to get to that point. And then I hit a cow, and I'm back in hospital, and I'm dealing with all this crap again. And that was hard. And you better believe that I'm thinking about that Dakar goal, and I'm going like, what the hell are you doing, bro? You're going to kill yourself. And so you're in this situation where you're like, just like those oaks are, they've worked hard at businesses, they've done all this sort of stuff, and now it's down, and now it's hard, and the market's bad, and, you know, blah, blah, boo-hoo, you know, kind of stuff. But it's hard. And for 6 months, healing with, I had to have 2 different operations in Richards Bay and in Joburg, and reattached my tricep with pins and stuff, which is still in now. And it was just, man, it was miserable. And you think like, what am I doing with this goal? It's tough. It's hard. And you feel sorry for yourself, and you mope around the house. And my wife came up to me. She's like, you need to go ride your motorbike and, you know, come back the man I married. And so what I did is I did like a 5-day solo trip. And I just rode all the way to Cape Town on an adventure, on an enduro bike, you know, and it gave me a chance to think. And during that time, I just realized, you know what? I can go a few more rounds here, man. I'm not done. I'm coming back from this as well, you know. And it was hard to kind of come to that, but that's what we did.
So, I mean, but if you were to sum that up for guys who are in the trenches, if there was one thing that you would say to them right now to give them the perspective shift that they need to keep pushing, what would that be?
See that end goal, realize where you want to be, you know, see that goal. What is that goal? What is the thing? And then, and if it is worthwhile, make sure that is the big one. That has to be worthwhile. It has to be right. If that's right, everything leading up to it is details. Everything is details. It doesn't actually matter. It doesn't matter how many times you hit a cow. It doesn't matter how many times you fall off, how many times you don't finish, whatever it is. And so if that goal is going to be worthwhile, if it's easy, that's just crap. it's going to be hard. If it, I mean, it's the whole, it's been said 1,000 times, if it was easy, everyone would do it. Exactly that. So if it's tough, you got to kind of look at yourself and go like, cool, am I tough enough to beat this, or am I going to tap out right now? And you got to just say, we got, if you got to go a few more rounds. Sometimes you got to get up on those jelly legs and keep swinging.
Yeah, there's always more in the tank, right?
For sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's just to echo what you just said there, there's a really cool saying, like, if you do the easy things, then you'll have a difficult life. But if you do the difficult things, you'll have an easy life.
I like that.
Yeah. And there's another one I like. I'm full of quotes.
No, that's cool. Bring it. I love them. Yeah.
But it's like, you can judge the success of a man with the number of difficult conversations they've had in their life. And whenever I know I have a difficult conversation, and this is pretty much every day now, for various reasons, but I say that to myself because it actually gives me that clarity. Do you know what I mean? Like, you have to do this. Like this. Do you know what I mean? Another one is like, I call it the one move strategy. So entrepreneurs, many people, and this applies in many aspects of life, right? But I find let's just say you want to do something, right? I want to throw an event or whatever. And what you do is you add complexity to getting the result. In other words, instead of just doing it yourself, you complicate things by having to make another phone call first so that you can then get to your goal. And oftentimes this delays productivity, which is like the end game ultimately in business. So I call it the one move strategy. It's like, if you think you need to do something, if it has more than one move, question why.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I suppose it's a similar story with you with the Dakar thing, right? And let's talk about the Dakar, right? So many of the guys won't know the story. So what year was this now?
Just last year. So built up to get to the start of the Dakar. Obviously after hitting the card was all of that, and then I came back from that trip and I was like, right, come, let's get my stuff together and let's get cracking with this goal. And so then I did some more races, started to finish. But in order to race Dakar, you have to send in a CV, and on that CV has to be all the races you've done as well as an international rally. So I did these races. I got through them with tons and tons of stories. You got to read the book to know.
When is the book coming out?
It's out already. Yeah, from Para to Dakar. Yeah, it's out already.
What's it called?
From Para to Dakar.
Okay.
And
you can get it everywhere, right?
Yeah, it's exclusive books, all that sort of stuff, or online at just joeyevans.co.za. And so the last thing I needed to do was to do an international rally. So I bought a place on a French team, and I went over to Morocco, and I went and raced in the Mazuga rally. So a 6-day race through the Sahara Desert and Morocco and things. And I finished that race. And so I came back and I sent in the CV and I waited. And it took about 6 weeks, 6 very long weeks.
2 moves.
Yeah, there you go.
That's the thing. Why do I have to go? Do you know what I mean? Like, is there a shorter way to get to what I need to do?
Man, I wish. But and so then I got sent in the CV, waited, and 6 weeks later I got the email and it said, congratulations, Joe, you've been accepted to race the Dakar Rally. And so then I'm like, man, this is awesome. But this is when it really got complicated, because to race the Dakar costs 1.1 million rand. And I didn't have 1.1 million rand. So we decided as a family, in the 6 months from getting that to the start of Dakar, we would raise 1.1 million rand.
Boom.
Yeah, it's just money. And so
I keep saying that to myself too.
Yeah.
Just, like, lose your attachment to the, it's ones and zeros, dude.
It's just hard when you have to, say that to the landlord. They don't always get it. Yeah.
No, I know exactly. Screw you, dude. It's only money.
It's just money. Come on,
Look, hey, Mr. Investor, it's only money. Give us a couple
You got your help. So I decided, we're going to do this. And in 6 months, we did all sorts of stuff. We did fundraising evenings, and we did adventure bike rides and enduro rides, and, just so much stuff. And in 6 months, we raised, 1.1 million rand.
Dope, dude. So that isn't the full story, obviously, because while you had achieved that goal, things got a little bit more complicated, and I guess you found yourself again short of achieving your goal. And why don't you walk us through what actually happened there?
At the Dakar. Okay, right. So 2nd of January last year, lined up at the start. of the Dakar Rally, and there's only been 9 South Africans in the history of the race to finish the race on a motorbike. Yeah.
No way.
Yeah. So there was 3 of us South Africans who lined up at the start. And I really my chance of finishing was slim, really.
But I don't understand that. Why though? Because of your physical?
No, well, half the guys that start don't finish the race. That's just because it's that tough, it's that long. To give you an idea what the race is it's 9,000 kilometers, mostly off-road. So now to visualize how far that is from Cape Town to Cairo plus 1,000 kilometers. Now it's off-road and you race that in 2 weeks. So that is why it's extreme. And in the 39 years of the race being held, there's been 70 deaths. So this is it's known as the toughest, hardest, gnarliest off-road race in the world, and for good reason. And so half the guys that start don't finish the race. Either mechanical or physical breakdown, crashing, injuries, all sorts of stuff. Now, by the end of day 5, out of the 3 South Africans that started, I was the only South African left in the race. And, my one good mate, Walter de Blanche, his motor had burnt out at high altitude in the dunes, and he's an excellent rider. He's just one of those bad luck kind of things, And then there was David Thomas, and he'd had a massive high-speed crash and broken his leg in many places, destroying his knee and things as well. And he was medevaced out in the chopper, and I helped to put him in the chopper and stuff. And it's horrendous. And so by the end of day 5, I'm the last South African guy left, and I went and tore ligaments on the inside of my knee while we were racing. Okay. So it was looking like I wasn't going to make it either. But
plus, you couldn't feel hot or cold, right?
That's it. Well, and a lot of the pain as well, which it turned out at Dakar to be a very good thing because it helped me to get through that sort of stuff. And so the doctor, they sonared the thing in the camps each night. They got sonar machines and X-ray machines, and they sonared it, and they said they'd let me continue racing, but they did recommend I retire from the race. And you talk about quotes. There was a quote I had on my handlebars, and it said, "You didn't come this far to only come this far," because it had taken me 10 years to get to that start line. I've just got to hack out 2 weeks. Man, you can bring on anything. It's only 2 weeks. We can do anything for 2 weeks. And so we strapped up that leg and we put a brace on it and forced it into my boot. And we, day 6 we were up and racing again. And we got all the way through until the second last day. And on the second last day, I had a close shave with being run over by a car, and the car rode over my bike and completely destroyed my bike.
Right. So there you are. I mean, how far from the finish line were you at the time?
At the time, the car went over my bike on the second last day. That day, I still had to race 660 kilometers.
So which is actually not too far considering how, 10 years to get there. Plus you've already knocked out quite a few of the Ks, right?
We've done over 7,500 kilometers, but I've got 660 kilometers to go that day. And my bike's destroyed. We have 3 petrol tanks on the bike, 2 of them completely destroyed. There's just a couple of liters left in the one tank. My whole frame of my bike is bent. The bars are bent. The exhaust is completely flattened, bent up into the back wheel.
Sorry, who hit you? Was it someone from the French team?
Yeah, oh man, if I find him. I actually don't even know. To this day, I don't know.
Really?
I really don't know. And I've thought about it. It's easy to find out, if you because we've all got trackers on it. They can tell when you stop. They know what speed you're going. They know G-forces in the car and everything. It's incredible, the kind of organization. But it doesn't change my reality knowing who it is and any kind of revenge or any kind of that sort of stuff. And so...
Was it at night, by the way?
No, it was during the day.
Was it the day?
Middle of the day. It was 10 o'clock in the morning. And so I kind of thought, you know what? It's fine. I'm not going to find out. Let's leave it like that. It's kind of better that way. At the time, I didn't feel like this. At the time, I was freaking seething,
A few F-bombs in the helmet.
Yeah, exactly. Words that weren't in the Bible. And and I thought about places to hide a body in the desert in Argentina. But it was hard. But, you kind of come to terms with it afterwards. You're like, you know what? I'm not going to be that guy who's bitter and angry and stuff. If I look back now... It was one of the best things that's ever happened to me in my life. And I'll tell you why. Because what I did was I I was stone last, by the way, so there wasn't a single biker behind me. There was just cars and trucks. I was stone last in the Dakar, second last day, 660 Ks to go, and the bike's completely destroyed. And I dragged that bike out of the track, and I stood it up, and I stripped all some of the navigation gear off the handlebars so I could turn the bars. And I took the whole exhaust off the bike, and I disconnected the tanks that were damaged, and all this sort of stuff. And
why did you do that? Were you hoping for something to happen, or
no, I just decided.
were you bored?
No,
like sitting on the side of the road in the desert. No, there's a bike. Let me dismantle the thing.
Well, the way it works is that they have a sweeper truck. Well, they have sweeper trucks, I should say. So you got these trucks, these like big 4x4 gnarly looking trucks with cranes on the back, and they're at the back of the race, and they kind of trundle along through the desert. And the guys that are out that day, they pick up the bikes, pop them on the back of the truck, you climb into the truck, and you're out the race. And so when that sweeper truck catches you, you're out. And it can take anything up to 72 hours for that sweeper truck to get to you. And I was in the desert there, and you've also got a button on your bike. So you can press this button on your bike, and they land a chopper right next to you. You climb in the chopper, you're out the race, and you leave your bike there, and the sweeper truck will pick it up. And I just thought about this, and I thought about in the desert there, and I didn't even have enough petrol, even if I got the bike working, to get to the next place I could get petrol. So I'm out the race. There's nothing I can do to stay in this race. But I just decided that I wasn't going to be that guy who's sitting under a tree waiting for the sweeper truck. And I'm not going to press that button. I decided when I climbed on that bike on the start line that I will never, ever press that button. It's not an option ever. And so I just took the exhaust off that bike, and I only had one foot peg, and I rammed the seat in, trying to get it to stay on the bike, and with all the bars bent and the frame bent, it was like riding a banana. I just started moving, and I just kind of zigzagged my way through this kind of like semi-arid desert type of thing. And I was just losing time, and you have to be in by your start time the next day. That's the way it works at Dakar. Now, my start time is 4 a.m. There's never in a million years it's going to take me 3 days to cover the distance at the speed I'm doing. And so I'm out this race. There's no ways I can do this race. And I just zigzagged and losing more and more time, and just feeling so angry, and and then the most incredible thing happened. And what happened was, in the middle of the desert, there was a KTM rally replica, the same motorbike as mine, just standing there in the middle of this desert.
With no one there.
And I went up to the bike, and at first it didn't really dawn on me. And then was like a bit of an aha moment, and there was like a ray of light above it, and like, and then, so the rules of Dakar is I can't ride that bike. I have to finish on my own bike, but I can strip parts from it.
That's the most ridiculous rule.
But I can, it's you have to finish on the bike you start with, but I can.
No, but hang on, before we go forward. How the probability of that eventuality ever happening, I mean, come on, that's got to be so rare.
Oh, for sure.
But they have a rule that addresses that.
That's it, yeah. You actually get little stickers on your frame of your bike at the start with little serial numbers on, little stickers you can't peel off, and all sorts of stuff to make sure you finish on your own bike. And so I got to that bike, and then there was 3 other guys there, but they were local Argentinian guys on old dirt bikes, like spectating the race and stuff. And between me and these 3 guys, we just started stripping that bike. And that bike belonged to a guy he was a Colombian guy, and he'd broken his arms in a crash there. And so
both arms gone.
Yeah, as far as I know, yeah. And he was medevaced out with the chopper, and his bike was there waiting for the sweeper truck. And so we did some shopping, and we stripped that exhaust off the bike, and we siphoned all the petrol out of that bike, and we took the whole bracket for the foot peg and everything. We put it on my bike, and we got my bike working. And so I was really fired up. And by this point, I'm stone last. I was stone last when I was hit by the car, but I'm stone last by 4 hours. So the guy who's second last is 4 hours ahead of me. And it's going to be touch and go if I can even get in by 4 o'clock the next morning. But I just decided I'm going to ride through the night, and I'm gonna get in. And so I rode, and we passed midnight, and just going through the deserts and the mountains and the canyons and stuff, just all on my own in the middle of the night through South America. And at 11 minutes past 2 the next morning, I rolled into that bivouac. And my buddy Walter Teblanche, who had gone out with the seized motor early in the race, he was waiting for me there at 11 minutes past 2 in the morning at the at the gate of the bivouac, and he hopped on the back of the bike, and we went up to the team, and then I had 1 hour of sleep, got up the next day and rode that bike another 700 kilometers to finish the Dakar rally.
Dude, that's insane. That's genuinely insane. But I just want to go back to when you saw the bike. Like,
yeah.
So for me, there's so much to talk about at this specific point in the story. One is giving up, obviously. Yeah. And I love what you said about, you made that decision before. In other words, you made the decision not to push that button.
Yeah.
That's it. I'll be dead, but I'm not going to push that button.
Yeah.
Literally. And I think as a mindset, that's so important for entrepreneurs and business owners and anyone that's involved in anything of mastery or excellence or just, high performance. It's like you have to burn your ships. Like there is no way back.
Yeah,
do you know what I'm saying?
I love that analogy. It's exactly that. You have to be, as I like to say, you have to be all in. You got to be all in, because if you're there and you like, I'm going to race and I'm going to do my best, unless it's really dangerous and my life's in danger, no, then I'm coming home. Or unless I'm really like, stuffing up my body or something, then I need to, call it quits. You'll be out on day 2 at Dakar. It doesn't make sense. You get there, you see the close calls. By the time I hit the end of day 3, I was so physically fatigued. I was just broken. And I've seen guys with broken legs. I've seen a guy rip his whole hand open and sever all the tendons to his fingers. I've seen guys being medevaced out. I saw a guy in a quad go down like a near cliff face, just rolling this thing over and over again all the way down. He was medevaced out with a chopper. I don't even know what his injuries were in the end. But and you've seen all this stuff. You've had a couple of close calls with cars and trucks already. And you're just like, you're asking yourself, like, what the hell am I doing here? But before you got there, you decided you're not quitting. You're not pressing that button, that you're going to cross that finish line. And if you don't have that attitude and you don't have that determination that that's what's going to happen, there's many, what I like to call a noble excuse. There's many ways to come home and everyone's going to pat you on the back and go like, well done, buddy. You tried. You did a good job. No, it's cool. No, it was a fully justifiable reason to come home, to finish, to quit. There's lots of justifiable reasons and you have to be all in. You have to be like, there is no reason good enough not to finish this race. You have, and unless you have that, you'll find reasons. If you want reasons, man, there's plenty of justifiable reasons.
Yeah, there's always a reason to quit.
Yeah.
But you have to find a reason to keep moving.
You find that reason that's taking you over the finish line. And my reason was to beat my injury. I've been fighting that injury for 10 years. It's a battle.
It's a monkey on your back, right?
It's a real adversary that you're fighting. That it's some days the injury wins, and you're miserable, and you maybe even there was many times I lay in my bed at night and just cried. It was just too much to handle. But the next day you get up and you're like, cool, let's go another round. Who's going to win this one? And that day you're positive and you're optimistic and you work hard at stuff and you do it. And so for me, the big victory was to finish the Dakar rally. That was beating the injury.
Yeah. One of the things about Dakar as an analogy is movement, right? You're moving all over all that land and all those that distance to get to destination, right? And there's just so much familiarity there for business owners. But movement's interesting because it's one truth about life. Like we're always moving. Do you know what I mean? Like part of nature, like nature's and evolution, it's about movement, and survival of the fittest. But one of the things that you can't control is what happens to you as, life moves forward. And in your case, you got hit by this car or this truck or whatever, and there's just and even I can tell you now, if you're listening to us right now or watching us right now, there's things that are happening today which you probably weren't expecting to happen, and so it's about reacting to these things, and because you can't control what happens to you, but you can control how you respond. What have you learned? Because there's just so many of these instances where you got physically hurt, like not just I got a scratch, but like you were like seriously hurt.
Yeah.
What have you learned, or what advice would you have for entrepreneurs or just people in general, human beings listening to us right now, about responding to things that are beyond your control?
Okay. the first thing I want to say is that it's with bikes and this kind of racing and stuff, guys get hurt. But I'm not one of these guys that's like, then I broke this and then I broke that. And it's not about that. It's crap getting injured, and it sucks crashing, and it's horrible. It's not. There's no bragging rights in how many injuries you've got. All it means is that you're a crapper rider than you think. At some point you run out of talent. And so it really is. It's not about that. It's really not. There's no braggy things about your injuries. It sucks. But like you say, these things happen, and when they happen to you, you have this little gap where you get to choose how you react. And it comes down to those guys that we spoke about in the beginning. Some guys choose to react positively, and they still get to have their awesome life. And some guys choose to react negatively, and no matter what happens physically after that, they're going to have a crappy life, and they're going to be miserable people. And so you have to make a conscious choice that I'm going to stay positive, and I'm going to work through this. You see it in arguments. When people have arguments, they either will escalate the argument or they'll bring it back down. And the guy who escalates that argument, he can be shouting all the right stuff. He can be totally correct in his point of view or anything. That whole thing's going one way. If the guy has enough self-control to bring it back down, to listen more, to keep his voice low, to keep that ego in check and stuff, he's going to have a great result out of that confrontation. Either way, it's going to work out the best for him. And so you have to have that, I guess, a maturity in a way to say, okay, cool, this is what's happened. Great. What is the response that I want to do? What do I want to like? What are all the emotions? What all the ego is saying? And then you say, cool, but what is the best choice to make right now? And you make that best choice in spite of what's the easy or the thing you want to do.
Love what you're saying. The other thing I want to touch on is physical. What's the word I'm looking for? Physical challenges, right? So like you had despite all of that, right? So you've done 7,500 Ks. This has happened to you. Emotional roller coaster beyond belief. Now you found this bike. You fixed the bike. You get to the sort of check-in or the stage, end of the stage gates. And now you have 1 hour of sleep, and you've now got to push through another 700 Ks. And time is the subject I want to just explore with you briefly. Time is the one thing that is the great leveler. It doesn't matter if you're Bill Gates or whether you're Matt Brown or you or anyone else listening to us right now. It's the one thing that's all equal, right? And what we do with that time is what often makes the difference between those who succeed and those who fail. So having said that, we also, the body takes a hit, right? Like it's stress, the emotional challenges of getting through the day or whatever. Like, how do you find that next level? Like, you had 1 hour of sleep. Like, if the guys are in the trenches right now, what have you learned about pushing through physically?
Okay.
Like, what makes that happen?
Totally. I totally get where you're coming from. Let me tell you where I was. So I get in there. I got 1 hour. Now, at Dakar, if you have an incident like I had, the correct thing to do is you go to the organizers, you fill out an incident report form where you write out what happened, you write out, where it was, the location, all that sort of stuff. Then they'll have a hearing, and that guy who went over me, in all likelihood, he would have been excluded from the race. So I have 1 hour. How do I spend that hour? Do I go and find those organizers? Do I walk across that 1 kilometer of the bivouac, go find them, go fill out the form, go get my revenge, make sure that guy gets excluded from the race, make sure he doesn't get his finisher's medal for unsportsmanlike conduct for what he did to me out there? Do I go and do that? Or do I sleep 1 hour, get on that bike and ride 700 Ks and finish this damn race? And so when you focus on your goal, you get that goal, you make sure that goal is the right goal. And then you do the stuff that gets you to that goal. All the other stuff, it doesn't need to happen. You don't need to get revenge. You don't need the satisfaction of pushing everyone down around you to make yourself get up and stuff, Just focus on what's important. And when you focus on the important stuff, and the important stuff perhaps is running your business, but the important stuff is also your family. That is more important than business, in my opinion. It's more important than money. It's more important than any of those things, and your health as well. It's also more important. So get those priorities right. Focus on the priorities, and when you do that, you look back, and when you turn 30, when you turn 40, when you turn 50, when it's those kind of hard birthdays to get up, you wake up on that morning and you say, you know what? If I could wish to be anywhere where I'm 40, it would be today. And then you've done it right.
Good answer. So just one more question for you. Why do you... Well, no, actually, I've got two questions. Would you change anything? Like when you look back at all the physical pain, the emotional, duress that you went through over the last 10 years, would you change anything?
Man, I go with that question over and again in my mind. I get asked it fairly often. My wife asks it to me sometimes as well. It's like you look at this roller coaster journey I've had and you look at the fantastic results. And, in my book, I compare it a little bit to my life, the Dakar, because when that guy went over my bike, that was the best thing that ever happened to me at Dakar, because it gave me a point to be out of the race, to all your dreams just shattered, to this miraculous moment of like sucking it up and just embracing that whole suck and just, I'm going to keep going. You won't break me. And then finding the bike and finishing. I mean, what an epic ending to the story. It was just, that made my race the best thing ever. Now you look at my life, breaking my back, being paralyzed, giving me that motivation to go and race the Dakar and stuff, that made my life pretty epic, even though it's a crazy, horrible thing to happen. But the flip side is that I am still living with that stuff. I've got to live. If I live to be 80, I've still got nearly 40 years of living, having to use catheters and not being able to run and not being able to jump and not being able to play all the sports I used to and all that type of stuff. I still got to deal with a lot of that. So if I could rewind 10 years, would I have raced that race? Flip, man, that's a tough call.
Yeah, it's difficult to make that kind of choice there. Look, I mean, the other thing I'd say is like your breakdowns are oftentimes your breakthroughs. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is also a truism that I've learned, in 2.5 years of doing the show. Last question for you. Like, why do you do what you do? Like, you're doing public speaking now. You speak to corporates about the story.
Yeah.
And just about you personally and, what you've learned in this whole amazing journey that you've been on. But why do you do what you do now? Like, what gets you out of bed in the morning?
Well, to give you an idea, I'm one of these guys that ended up in the wrong career. I did stuff because it paid the bond and it paid to get kids through school. And with 4 kids, that's a big deal. And so there was a lot of like those kind of challenges. And so I actually have a swimming pool company, where we do pool heating and that kind of stuff. And so I've basically fixed pools for people for the last like 18 years. That's really been my thing. And all this time, weaved into that is the racing and obviously being paralyzed and working at this goal and stuff. And about a year before Dakar, I worked with my brother and he's a lot young. He's about 9 years younger than me. And he kind of took over the business, running all of that sort of stuff. So I could really just focus on this like once in a lifetime goal. And so to be able to do that was fantastic. And it's hard when you have your own business, which is what it is, to let go, to let somebody else run it. You can always do everything better yourself. It never works the same unless you're there. And so that was tough, but it was important to do this Dakar thing. So he started running it. I raced Morocco, came back and did the Dakar. And I just decided, you know what? That is not my passion, and I'm not going back there. and so now, and with the way it all ended up, I mean, I get that it's kind of a cool story to get to Dakar after being paralyzed. Yeah, it is. It's cool. It's fantastic to be able to do that. But the way it all ended with the car going over the bike and riding through the night and all that it was just such a perfect ending. And so the opportunity came to write the book, and so I took a few months last year and wrote the book, and then started doing the talks, and I love doing the talks. It's fantastic. I love it. I love the way that when you're speaking, you're telling the story, you see the people smiling back at you, and you can see they want to punch air and go, yeah, I can do this, And so it's a fantastic thing. And it was never planned to do it as a career. But as I did the first few and it just kind of worked, and it just clicked with people and people got it. You don't have to be a biker to get it. It's a human story. And I was just like, yeah, this is a fit. And for sort of the first time in my life, it just all kind of clicked. And it was all like, yeah, this is what you can do. And so that's what it's been. And, I've been doing that now for a little while. And I'm like, yep, this is what we're going to do. So we've got big goals in that area. You know, as an entrepreneur, I want to speak all over the world. You know, I want to be able to do stuff. And then, yeah, there's a few more adventures I'd like to do as well in bikes.
Of course there is. Once a biker, always a biker, eh?
That's it.
Jerry, thanks so much, dude. It's been a
Awesome.
privilege and an honor, really, to get to share your story with my listeners.
Oh, cheers, man.
Dude, best of luck speaking. I think it's, to your point, it's a human story, and that's what I've really enjoyed about today. So thanks, mate.
Cheers, man. Thanks a lot, bro.
The Matt Brown Show. This is the Matt Brown Show.